Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Hey, Kurt.
Hello, sir. A preview of the Stanley Cup playoffs round one, methinks?
Three. Well, I hope it's not too much of a preview. That was never in doubt, Kurt, but not in a good way.
No.
LA just dominated that game in a 3-0 win over the Edmonton Oilers. And we'll talk about whether it's a bad or a good. I think the word is augury for the playoffs.
Augurs well, augurs poorly.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the noun is augury, an auguring or an augury, but yeah.
I know augurs.
It was an ugly loss. I'm going to suggest. Let me just see the 5 alarm or the grade A shots in this one, Kurt, were. Give me 1 second here. I totaled it up. 8 for the Oilers. They usually get about 15 or 16 grade A shots a game. They got 8. 12 for the Kings. The Oilers usually let in about 12, but the Kings had 8 5 alarm shots, the most deadly shots. That's as many as the grade A shots. The Oilers have just had 2 really good shots all game long.
That sounds like the game I watched.
They were both by Hyman, and then they didn't even count one of them on the official score. His first period break-in, which I thought which had a really good chance of going in the net. And then his third period where he kind of cut into the slot and fired it hard on net too. Other than that, Bruce, there wasn't a lot.
You know, I think it was largely predictable because it's okay. We'll probably do that for a while. It's all good. And understandably so. You know, I think it was a bit of a predictable outcome with 97 and 29 out, and you're playing the second best defensive team in the NHL. You should probably expect a low scoring game, which I thought for 2 periods, that's what it was. I thought some of LA's good chances came in the third when Calvin Pickard was still keeping him in it. But when you don't score, it's hard to win in any league. and the Oilers, I thought they defended all right. The PK was certainly good. I think the PK was a perfect 4 for 4. But they really didn't piss a drop offensively. I mean, I think the only really dangerous chance was Hyman's. You know, Podkolzin had that opportunity in front before LA went back down and scored the 2-0, but
more of a tip on net than even kind of a jab at the puck. He just couldn't get leverage.
And you know what? When your big guys are out, and we'll talk about this in a bit, when your big guys are out, you need other guys to step up, and they just didn't tonight. And that was the game as far as I was concerned.
Indeed. Kurt, this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. What is your good thing?
It's unusual to pick Evan Bouchard when you get shut out, because usually if you're picking Evan Bouchard as your good thing, it's because he's contributed offensively. Well, he did tonight. He was actually very effective with the puck. Had 7 shots on net, which led the Oilers by a country mile. And when you look at his fancy stats, they were terrific. According to Natural Stat Trick, 5-on-5 chances for against were 32-10, so a 76% CF, and his high dangers were 5-4 and 1 against. I don't know about you, but if I get that kind of offensive production, I'll call it, from Bouchard, and only have 1 grade A against with him on the ice 5-by-5, that's a good game from one of your top pairing D-men. I've always believed that Evan Bouchard can defend just fine when he sets his mind to it. The problem is he doesn't always set his mind to it, in my opinion. Some people will think that's fair. Some people won't. That's fine. But we saw in the playoffs last year, he was a well above average defender. And when he really digs in with his reach and his height, he can be an effective defender, and he was tonight. So I thought he moved the puck pretty well. He defended reasonably well. He certainly got the puck through on a night where the Oilers offensively didn't have much going on at all. He was one of the precious few bright spots on this club.
Yeah, I agree, Kurt. some people will be mad at him. There was a breakaway in, I think, early in the second period. But really that was on Wallman. I think Wallman made her came up Jake Wallman's side and he just misread the play. He got caught flat-footed. So Bouchard had to come over to the other side. Yeah, he got beat too, but really you're counting on your partner to do his job defensively in that moment, and it just did 100%. Not happen.
I saw the play the same way as you did. Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty. My good thing. I'll go with Trent Frederick. And I just thought, okay, so there was a concerning thing. He played just 7-10. So that's not a whole heck of a lot. But let me just see if that's true, because I always update the time on ice shortly after the game's over.
I have 7-10 on mine as well. Yeah.
Okay. But man, I love the way he was playing physical hockey out there, Kurt. He was roughing him up. He was tough around the net. He was hitting on the boards. He was nasty. He was aggressive. He knocked Drew Doughty on his keister, and it looked like he had maybe injured Doughty, or Doughty got injured on the play for a second there. And I have to admit, Kurt, if I'm completely honest, ever since Mikey Anderson took down Leon Draisaitl with that absolutely dirty play in 2022, I have no sympathy or pity for the Kings if they get injured against the Oilers.
Nor do I. Guys, exactly the same way.
You bunch of jerks have it coming. You're a jerk team, and whatever happens to you, even though I really like Drew Doughty, I don't have, and I don't want to see necessarily anyone get injured. I just want to see them get hammered, because I hate
karma,
that.
Right?
I hate
the
Kings.
Yeah, I hear you.
Joss. They are a dirty team as far as I'm concerned, with a lot of dirty hockey players still.
The neat thing about Frederick was this was his most common play tonight, was his hand in someone else's face.
I like how Louis DeBrusk calls it the stinky glove, because probably some of those gloves are pretty stinky.
Oh yeah. He's got game. Hey, he sticks his nose in where it doesn't belong every shift. I thought over the first two periods, I thought he was impactful every shift. And as you alluded to, he missed a bunch of shifts because he took a 6-second shift early in which he landed a heavy hit. But then he had clearly felt something with the ankle, because he sat on the bench and talked to TD for quite a while before he went out for his second shift. But I saw him as not only very effective while he was on the ice, but brings an identity and an ingredient that this team, without Evander Kane in the lineup, just doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of. And it is most welcome at any time, but especially heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I kind of saw what you saw too, as a guy who got up and after it, was around the net, sticking his nose in, and more please.
There was one play in the second period. He took a really hard hit in the corner, and that Janmark kind of pounced on the puck and went in to shoot and got a really good shot on net. And the lane was open because Frederick had taken out the LA King in the corner on the forecheck. So, and he did have a good, I think, a tip shot as well. He was in on 2 grade A shots. So,
yeah, he had
I like this game.
Jam chance right at the side of the net too, right? So
yeah, wraparound. He had a very solid wraparound shot.
Yeah.
Kurt, what is your bad thing?
Well, my bad thing are 2 players who I have a lot of respect for. But I think when you're missing both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl out of your lineup on the same night, same afternoon, you just need more from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Adam Henrik. And those 2 players end up your de facto number 1 and number 2 centers with 97 and 29 out of the lineup. And we didn't get a point or a shot out of either man. And that's just not good enough, and that may sound strict or tough, I guess, but it's next man up when your big guys are out. And these are your next 2 guys up. And they're quality NHL centermen who have both had long careers and solid success putting up points. Nugent Hopkins has had a 100-point season. In a game like this, where one goal would have made a huge difference. To not even get a shot out of one of those guys, that's just not good enough. And there's going to be times in the Stanley Cup playoffs when both McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be smothered in coverage, where you need somebody else to step up and chip in. And tonight was not a good example of what needs to happen. So love both players, think they made big contributions to the Edmonton Oilers, but on this night, they didn't step up when their club needed them to.
Yeah, Jeff Skinner, just one shot. Kapanen, no shots. Max Jones, of course, no shots. That's a fairly usual occurrence. It's a concern, Kurt, with Nugent Hopkins. He did pick up a lot of points on the power play last year in the playoffs, but I felt 2 years running he's been kind of pushed out of the heavy going against big, tough teams in the playoffs. He's got to find a way to become more effective in heavy hockey games. And I think he's capable of doing it when he plays his hardest game, when he digs in as hard as he can. I mean, he can play really strong hockey. And we've seen in the last month his best hockey of the year. He's coming on in a lot of ways. But it's not easy for him to make an impact in a heavy hockey game. It's a struggle, and it's going to be a struggle for Skinner as well. And RNH is going to be in the lineup. Skinner may not, though, if he doesn't figure out how to make an impact in a heavy hockey game. You've got to do it. And other players their size do achieve it. They accomplish it. But the Oilers are going to need RNH's best playoff season, essentially, to win the Stanley Cup. And I really hope to see it. I hope he makes a breakthrough. And I think other players have over time figured it out. And we've seen it at times, but not in the last couple playoff seasons.
Yep, I think that's fair.
My bad thing, Brett Kulak in this game.
He was so good last game, hey? What a difference a game makes.
It happens. It's been known to happen. That first scramble where early scramble where Calvin Pickard got turned around and made this shot with the back of his elbow. That was Kulak's man who got off that shot. There was a scramble. Emberson took his man in front of the net on the outside shot, but Kulak lost the battle to his man. But it's on the two goals against that I actually think he was co-primary. He was co-culprit on the first goal with Matthias Janmark. But on the second goal against, I thought he was the prime culprit. So the first goal against is a rush up the ice, and Kulak just misread it in the neutral zone and got on the wrong side of his man. He just was a step behind the whole play. And it broke in fast and hard to the net, and then Janmark totally lost the battle. He stopped skating on the back check, and he then let the scorer go in front of the net. So Janmark was probably the primary culprit on that, but Kulak started off the sequence of pain with some just lack of intensity, lack of I think intensity is the right word, focus perhaps in the neutral zone. The second goal against Kuzmenko's goal, you could say Pickard needed to make a save there. I think Calvin Pickard probably needed to make a save there. It was an outside shot.
And you and I see that. You and I see the goaltender differently. But let's talk about the defenseman first, because I think you and I are on the same page when it comes to the D-man on the play.
All right. It's a tough play to analyze in a lot of ways because it's very subtle what happens. But essentially, the puck gets passed out to Adrian Kempe at the blue line. And Henrik is moving towards Kempe, and it's Henrik's man. He's a little bit late, slightly late. Kulak notices that, and he starts shading towards Kempe. But he does it. It's a split second too long, and in that split second, Anze Kopitar goes to the net, and Kopitar really is his man, but Kulak doesn't go with him. And because of that, Darnell Nurse has to cover for Kulak because you can't let Kopitar go to the net. So Nurse goes to to the big guy of the Kings. And what happens up top is there's a pass then over from Kempe to Kuzmenko. And because Nurse has been dragged to the net and Kulak is out of position, there's no one on Kuzmenko. It is a wide open shot from a sniper. So this is a difficult shot. But it is outside of home plate. And a save certainly would have been nice, I think, on this one. And you know, the old goalie Bruce would have also, if you're going to argue it's not really on Pickard, that would have been Bruce's argument. You know, I can see it, but he would say this is a sniper who's got all kinds of time to pick a spot. But you go ahead. What's your argument on it, Kurt?
Well, I see the Kulak Henrik decision exactly the same way.
Yeah.
If you watch the video of the play, you can see Darnell Nurse shoulder check and move over.
Yeah.
Then moves back. In the final analysis, Darnell Nurse ended up in the exact same spot that he started in.
Yeah.
Right. Which was flat-footed and deep. Right. And you're right. Because of that decision, that whole right-hand side of the ice opened up.
Yeah.
Kuzmenko had all the time in the world. And so, yeah, I think it was the misread on Kulak was the primary mistake on the play. On the goaltender, I can agree with you in, would you like a save there? Sure. I'd like a save on any goal. I'll give you that. But I think that a shooter like that, an NHL shooter with no pressure, shooting from the dot, that if that's not a grade A chance, it's just shy of one. And I personally don't put it on the goaltender. So there's me holding up my old friend's end of the bargain.
Well, I would,
and looking after the goalie.
I would say a B+ shot. Like that's a hell of a shot and a hell of a shooter, but it's just outside home plate. So it's you know, and if it was maybe Ovechkin shooting it but Kuzmenko's an interesting player because he's a super high skill player who does have a good shot and can unleash it. He just doesn't do it regularly. In recent seasons, he had that one big year a few years back, but anyway, yeah, Kulak, I actually liked him less on the first goal. I think the second goal was just tough because there was that moment when Adam Henrik really starts it off by being just a little slow. Yeah. And that does suck in Kulak. And it's hard then to shift gears and shift back, and things go bad quickly. You know, we're dealing with Kuzmenko, Kopitar, and Kempe there. Those are three highly skilled players. Yeah. They will punish you, and the Oilers got punished quickly for relatively small, a couple relatively small mental errors, and then Henrik failing to block out that pass as well. Yeah,
but you know, Dave, I agree with that. But if you add on top of it, you got three players on the ice in there, and Henrik and Kulak and Nurse. Those are veteran defenders, right? So if this is one of your youngest player making that misread, it's like, oh, that's a tough play for the kid. These are men. They know better. This isn't their first rodeo, right? So it's I'm with you. I don't think it's too harsh to identify the mistakes that these three veteran defenders made on that play.
What I didn't like about it is in a zone defense, which is what they play, you're not supposed, if you're the defenseman, you do not follow that. Kempe's not scoring from there. Yeah, that's the whole idea of the zone.
I know.
You know, he's not scoring. You don't have to go get him. You can back up. In fact, that's your job. So Kulak and I didn't blame Nurse on that because he had to move towards Kopitar.
Yes,
and then he tries to adjust towards Kuzmenko. Boom! It's too late.
It's just too late.
I don't think Darnell. He's doing the right thing, making up for his partner there. The mistake happens. You can't let Anze Kopitar go free. So
you know, when I played, I always hated playing zone because I was a skater. I'd sooner chase the guy down. Now I didn't have the patience to play zone. I would have made a crappy Oiler.
Oh, I love playing zone. I'm a plotter. I'm a, I'm not much of a skater, Kurt. So yeah, I like playing right. I'll just stand in front of the net here, and you're not going to score from the corner. I kick myself if I ever go into the corner and they score. Like I just think, you idiot, you should have stayed in front of the net. So
I was an excellent skater, but I was a 5'8" defenseman, so there's no surprise I didn't like to play zone.
You were Troy Stetcher. You're describing,
you know what?
Troy.
There's a fair little bit of similarity between my game and Troy Stetcher's, actually. So, except he's way better than I ever thought of being. Other than that.
All righty. Where are we now, Kurt? Did I give my good thing?
You did. It was Trent Frederick.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say when I just brought up Troy Stetcher. Now, before the podcast, we had talked about Stetcher as well as my good thing, but then I did move on to Frederick. I do want to say though, I thought Troy Stetcher was really strong in this game. A number of really hard plays against Fiala, which were excellent plays, and man, that guy is earning a spot. He's going to be hard to get out of the lineup because he's a smart, effective player who does so much with what he has, and his size gets taken advantage of now and then. But I'm really liking his game, and I really have in the last month.
He plays big and he works his ass off.
Does he ever?
You know? Yeah. I admire. I think you get way more out of Troy Stetcher than you see.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to numbers, Kurt. What is your numero?
79. 79 was the total number of goals out of the lineup without Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in the lineup. And on a lot of the nights, that's the difference between a win and a loss. You know, it's and that kind of goes back to my comment about Nugent Hopkins and Henrik. With all due respect to those two guys, good pros. But when you're missing almost 80 goals out of your lineup, somebody has to step up. And it speaks to the other concern that we're going to have when we head into the playoffs, which is there will be fewer power plays because there always are in the playoffs. And the game will be more physical, and the games will be most often more tightly played defensively. And so if your combined 80-goal guys can't break through, well, who else is there to break through?
Yeah,
I think this is a fairly well-rounded team. It's got pretty good depth. But I think the gap this year between players 1 and 2 and everybody else is wider than it was last year. And that's a concern.
Yeah. I'll have to think about that. I'm not like, I have liked Arvidsson quite a bit and Podkolzin, but you know,
but
Fogle and McLeod.
You know, Arvidsson's he scored half of what we thought he would.
Yeah, that's true, Kurt.
Right? I mean,
that's fair.
Who didn't predict him to score 30 goals playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl? I sure did.
I like his defensive play. I think he's and I think it goes unnoticed, but I think he's quite a solid defensive player. And it's not something because he hasn't scored. People don't give him credit for that. So
I think that's fair. But if you're expecting 30 and he's not giving you 15, that speaks to that gap between players 1 and 2 and everybody else. Zach Hyman, he's got 27 this year, had 54 last year.
He's not been the same player this year.
No, yeah. I wrote early in the year, and I don't take it back, that I think Nugent Hopkins has lost half a step. Right? Jeff Skinner, I think people thought Jeff Skinner would score 25 or 30 playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl. And while he's been better lately, he ain't going to do that either.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like, who's filling that gap? Well, we'll see.
Yeah, Janmark's,
so far, nobody, right? Yeah. Janmark's got one.
Janmark's taken a step back this year. Hyman's taken a step back this year. Connor Brown is about the same. RNH is arguably taken a step back.
Yeah.
Henrik is about this.
Yeah. Kapanen skates really well, but never scores. Like he hasn't scored since January.
He's a marginal, surely. And I have a stat that's going to highlight that. There was one play in the first period, I think, where, first period, my number revolves around battles won that lead to grade A shots at even strength. So we track that for the Oilers. There was a play where Podkolzin won a board battle in the first. He passed it over to Arvidsson, who kind of shoveled it one-timer on net. He didn't get all of it, as the announcer said, but it was a really good play by Podkolzin, and it was a typical kind of play from him. So what I did was totaled up the battles won this year by the forwards that have led to grade A shots at even strength.
Interesting.
Podkolzin leads the team for the forwards with 31 such plays this year.
Yeah.
So like almost every second game, he's winning a battle and making a pass for a grade A shot. That is tremendous. The second best player on the Oilers is Zach Hyman at 29. RNH has 17 such plays. Arvidsson 15, Henrik 12, Corey Perry 12. The interesting ones, Connor Brown 10. The interesting ones are McDavid just has 8, but that's because he's always got the puck. He doesn't have to win it back.
Yeah.
But Jeff Skinner has just 6. Just Podkolzin 31, Jeff Skinner 6.
Yeah.
Who's going to play in the playoffs, Kurt, if it comes down to it?
Yeah.
Well, Kapanen, and here's the real surprise. Kapanen 2.
Wow.
Just 2.
Yeah.
For all his hustling and skating around fast, that ain't. So I like Jeff Skinner's skill a lot, and he has been playing better. And people are going to hate to hear this, and they're going to hate it when they see it. But I think you get all these players back, and it could be Kapanen, Janmark, and Skinner are the 3 guys I think who are on the bubble.
Well, it'll be interesting because, I mean, if let's say everybody's healthy, the 4 forwards who are out now are playing, right? I think we can agree with that, right? So yeah, no, it's, well, with the thing with Vasily Podkolzin that I think is that he has great wall play. He's got very good straight line speed. He plays a very heavy game. And quite a smart game. He's well aware of what's going around him on the ice. My problem with Vasily Podkolzin is, on a good team, he should be your 3rd or 4th line winger.
Yeah.
And play a really significant, solid role in that spot and be an important contributor. My problem is he can't score.
He can't.
Well,
he may be a 4th line player in the playoffs. Like you might have a 4th line of Corey Perry, Frederick, and Podkolzin, right? Like that would be a fairly heavy 4th line, and
I'd take that.
well within the realm of possibility that we're going to see something like that.
But a lot of that is predicated on whether Evander Kane can come back and play top 6, right?
Totally. And there seems to be a pretty good vibe around that. Like he's back on the ice. He's been back on the ice for some time. The practice seemed to be going well. So
our friend Bob certainly seems to be sending out positive signals in that direction.
Yes,
Bob's famous for saying nothing but saying something.
Yeah, if you can read the Bob vibrations, they are. Bob, it's so his telegraphs are so. I mean, if you listen to him enough, it's just extremely clear what he's trying to say.
Yeah, but I've been in Bob's position.
It's great.
I've been on a host broadcasting team. You are limited from what you can say. Bob knows that, so he tries to talk around corners as best he can. And unless you've ever been in that role, sometimes it's a little difficult to understand that. But I think it's amazing what he says, considering the constraints that are probably put on him. Oh
yeah. And I write off Bob's show all the time. He's always giving hints or outright information, which are incredibly newsworthy. Like, he's the main news source of the Oilers. And he does a fantastic, his audience is huge. And his work ethic is second to none. Like, he's living, eating, breathing, sleeping the Edmonton Oilers. So
I worry about Bob sometimes. He just won't take a break, man. I'll be sitting around having a beer on my deck in the summertime, and Bob will phone say, I want to talk to you about the Oilers. It's like, Bob, go fishing. Like,
he works he just works all. That's what shocks me is because most of the guys take like 6 weeks off in the summer.
Yeah.
Bob does not.
He doesn't. No.
So yeah, he is a workhorse. All right, so the Oilers made a signing today. Kurt, we'll just talk about it briefly. Nathaniel Day, a goalie, 6'4", 200 pounds, 20 years old, played for the Flint Firebirds of the OHL. He's interesting, and the Firebirds were, I think, a pretty mediocre team, and he I think he was like played the most minutes or near the most minutes for a goalie in the OHL this year. And let me just call up the story that I wrote because there's one super interesting stat about Nathaniel Day on the Flint Firebirds, and that is this: that he played 59 games and had an .894 save percentage. The backup goalie just played 13 games, but he had an .836.
Oh man.
836 save percentage. So it was like almost 60 points difference. You can see why they played Day so much, but it also, I think, does speak to probably some weakness in the team itself defensively. They had a really young defense. They had two 17-year-olds and a 16-year-old playing heavy minutes. They only have one of their 6 D-men on the Flint Firebirds. Only one has been drafted into the NHL, and he was a sixth round draft pick. So this is an interesting signing. I think the Oilers have room for probably one more goalie, and it's quite interesting because they have a couple interesting prospects. There's this guy, Bouchard, who's just ripping it up right now. Since Rodrigue was called up, Bouchard was called up from the ECHL.
From Wichita?
Yeah, Brett Bouchard, and he's a smaller goalie who played for the London Knights, but I think he's had a .939 save percentage in 3 games for Bakersfield.
Yeah, he's been good for the Condors.
A team that's also really weak defensively this year. So he's a free agent. He's 22 years old. Maybe he'll get a contract. There's also Samuel Johnson, who was a 5th or 6th round draft pick a few years ago, and he was one of the best goalies in the 2nd division Swedish Pro League, which is somewhere between the ECHL and the AHL.
Yeah, it's a good league. Yeah,
it's a good league. So there's these 2 other goalies, which maybe both of them will get contracts, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Olivier Rodrigue. He's an RF.
I was just going to say that. It might be decision time on him, hey?
I think so. This for him and for the Oilers, and maybe he'll get a game now. Like the Oilers are now 4 points behind the Kings. It might be time to play Olivier Rodrigue and see in a couple games, see what he's got. You'd hate to lose him without seeing that.
Yeah, but I mean he's been in the organization for 5 years now.
Correct.
I think if you're not an NHL goalie by now, you're probably not going to be.
Well, I think there are other goalies who have played. Like, didn't Corey Crawford play like 5 years in the minors for Chicago before he finally broke through?
I guess I mean that the Oilers, haven't been riding Andy Moog and Grant Fuhr for the last 5 years. Right? Let's call a spade a spade. Calvin Pickard has been tremendous and so much more than anybody would have possibly expected. But he's Calvin Pickard, right? So I think if Rodrigue hadn't made it by now, it's maybe he just needs a second opinion. All
righty. I think you might be right. Like it's hard to know, but I'd like to still see him in some games. We'll see. I mean, he had good save percentages 2 years running in the AHL before this year.
Yeah, difficult to judge anybody in Bakersfield this year. Their defense has been so devoid of veterans. I mean, it's been a real rough go down there. The 2 veterans they did have didn't play for long stretches. And I think Dermott is I don't even know if he's playing yet, but I think he's back with the team now. So.
Yeah, both him and Josh Brown out with some personal stuff. So, alrighty. So, Kurt, the next game is Monday night. But tomorrow we're going to get together in the morning. We'll have a Bruce McCurdy podcast with his son, Kevin.
Looking forward to that. That'll be great.
Yeah.
So I was kind of talking with Kevin as the game was going on today, and it felt a little bit like talking to his dad while the game was on, I got to say.
Yes, yet some of the things. Oh, which reminds me, at the end of the game, Kevin had some interesting words for the referees. And there was one moment in this game where I was really mad at the referees. Janmark got, is this towards the end of the second period or early in the third? He got a fairly marginal slashing penalty. He slashed his
that one-handed thing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, how many times a game did Draisaitl and McDavid get slashes like that? Like 5 each?
And this was in the neutral zone, right? It was,
Yeah. And so it was pretty marginal. And then there's a power play for the Kings, and Nugent Hopkins is going to go on a breakaway. He gets the puck at the blue line, and he's about to charge on a breakaway, and Drew Doughty just smashes his stick right across the front of Nugent Hopkins, hot on his body, and stops the breakaway that way. And there's no call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As I said to Kevin, I said the refereeing certainly wasn't the determining factor in the game today, but it was pretty crummy. Like that interference call on Evan Bouchard, like, please, like, that was really marginal. So, ooh, woof.
Kurt, thanks for talking today.
It was a pleasure.
And in the meantime, and in between time, and until we meet again, Bruce McCurdy, now having a drink in the halls of our father with the Hockey Gourds. This has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast. Alrighty.